Hey, John.
Hey, Alex.
You don't know I hate?
What's that?
Do you know what I hate?
What's that?
I just keep picturing you with that sailor.
Popeye?
Oh, yeah, anyway, we watched Eyes Wide Shut.
Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, wondering in the night, what were the chances we'd be sharing love before the night was through?
So yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, our first Kubrick.
Yes.
John, congratulations, our first Kubrick.
Thank you. We did it.
I want to give you some background here about me. When I was in high school, I was the type of person to own a Clockwork Orange T-shirt. I was absolutely fucking obsessed with Kubrick. I thought he was just the genius among genius. I had this weird thing going for a while. It's probably not all that strange, but yes. So I watched so many of his movies just over and over again to the point of irritating the shit out of my friends. Mm-hmm. And this was the only movie I'd seen his previous films in the theater, but this was the first time I've had a chance to see a Kubrick in the with my own eyeballs. This coming out in what, 99?
99, yeah.
Yeah, so I was 19. So I think the last movie that came out, I was 3. So I don't think my parents were taking me to Full Metal Jacket.
No, I doubt it.
So I went to see this in the theater. I'm not saying I didn't like it.
Uh-huh.
But I was pretty let down by this one. It was very strange. Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't feel very Kubrick-y. And going back now, watching it this many years later, I've seen it other times in between, but boy, this movie feels very Kubrick-y.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is so weird to kind of go around, because back when I was like a huge Kubrick fan, this didn't feel Kubrick to me.
Yeah.
Now that I'm like kind of distanced from him, like, oh yeah, this is so fucking him.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I know, and it's funny because I remember not having seen it at the time. This was my first time watching it. I remember all the fervor and then the negative reaction to it. Because it was billed really heavily as like, basically, you're going to watch Kidman and Cruise fuck. Hey, everybody. And that, obviously does not happen and is not really the point of the movie. But that's how they build it. And they were such a celebrity star couple, too. And then when it wasn't as good as people thought it was going to be, or it wasn't what people thought it was going to be, then it became this weird blame game of like, they ruined it. Their star power ruined this movie. Or since he died like days after they finished the final cut, like, well, Hollywood ruined it, or there's a secret cabal. Scientology stepped in and changed some things.
Kubrick is infamous for keep editing his films. Like apparently, like 2001, at some point in the 90s, somebody was at his house and they caught him at an editing bay, editing 2001, a movie from nearly 30 years previous.
Yep.
So he is just one of those people. And I wonder whether, because it's not that I dislike this movie, I actually quite enjoyed it, but I wonder if him dying when he did and not getting those last little tweaks in moved this movie from being this is pretty good, and to this could have been like a Kubrick masterpiece. Because the things that threw me off about this, one, I feel like the score wasn't done right, and not just making fun of the kind of that weird discordant piano thing, but like there was that weird rock song in that one part where they're listening to like some...
Well, that apparently, the lore behind that anyway, is that like Nicole Kidman was like, I would like to listen to something to help me feel sexy on set, and Kubrick actually liked it.
Yeah, that doesn't work at all. And I think some of the editing doesn't feel quite done.
Oh, I would disagree. I think it's great. I agree with you that I think if Kubrick was left to be Kubrick about it, he would have changed some things.
Yeah.
But I think I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there was just a couple, I liked, we'll get into it. I don't want to do too many things out of order and just front load, but like, there was just some of the kind of editing choices of like, basically how many times they went back to him walking on the streets thing. Just feels like they were digging into a well the way there's nothing there a couple times, where it's just... not that it like really sucked, but it was just kind of like, oh, this again. I, as the audience may well know, write stories, and I find myself, when struggling to know what's going to happen next, I'll just have the character go back somewhere. Like, oh, well, that's when they go back to the house, or that's when they go back to the rocket ship, or whatever. Because I write a lot of rocket ship stories.
Right.
It seemed like this was
Elon Musk fan fiction.
Yeah, and then he held me in his arms and said, "Call me Tesla." And thrust his rocket into me, the BFG,
and then called me a pedophile.
Yes. Memories. But it seems like they just kept going back to the him dramatically wandering thing as a I don't really know what to do next.
Yeah, I don't. That'll work for me. Again, not front loaded, but just like him, just sort of being lost and aimless in his aimless like jealousy stomp. I guess I'll call it that.
Yeah, it's not that I disliked it. I just thought they did it too many times. It was like, oh god, this, and it wasn't like I was like in a rush. Like I enjoy it. I like the way Kubrick makes a movie.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like, I just wish they did something like instead of him stomping around, like just brood. Instead of stomping around and then going into a cafe to avoid
Brood in the dark until the bat signal shows up.
Okay, fine. No, seriously, anything. Go to a different friend's house. Sit at a bar. Like just don't walk someplace. And I don't need another cab. Like it's just so much cab. So much walking.
I don't know. It all worked, and without getting too much into the plot, I think that's.
I think that is the plot. Most of
But
the plot.
but I mean that's part of it is him. Everything with Tom Cruise is transactional in this movie. Any interaction he has with someone else is transactional.
Yeah.
His first line is, "Where's my wallet?" Which I noticed the second time through. Is that's all he does?
No, it's another part of the. God, I'm gonna sound like. Let me just.
We're not
first.
gonna not sound like assholes in this. So
Yeah, I just
be
let me
pretentious as you want
establish.
to be with it.
I wasn't trying to avoid being pretentious. I was trying to avoid sounding like I hate this movie. I'm gonna point out flaws in this because it bothers me that they're there. We talk about this a lot. The times the flaws annoy you the most is where a movie's like, this movie could have been fucking amazing, and it is, and it's just really good. You know what I'm saying? Like it could have been like, oh my god, this movie's great, and it's just that movie's really good. Where it's just like
sure.
It almost sucks that it. Like, if this wasn't Kubrick, I'd be like, wow, this is one of my favorite movies ever. Like, this thing's fucking great.
Right.
But
if Zack Snyder somehow whipped this out.
If Zack Snyder...
In front of the show, David Ayers.
Yeah, he would win me over. Because I'm not writing that guy off. Maybe he's got something in it. But,
God, I can't imagine a David Ayers Eyes Wide Shut.
That'd be fucking hilarious. But I thought some of the ham-handed things in here were a little hammy. Like... hey, let's introduce Nicole Kidman naked. Let's introduce the doctor, money. Like there's some stuff where it's just like, do you get the fucking things?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, but it's done once and then that's it. If it was
no, but every scene with him is here have some cash, keep the tip, here have to, like
he's an empty person.
I know, but it's just maybe show it another way. Like, and it's just hey, look, she's tits. Hey, look, he's money.
But that's the only time you really see her other than like I don't remember if she's nude in the mirror scene, but whatever. But you see her like getting dressed at the beginning, and then you see her on the toilet. It's immediately just like undercut with that.
Yeah.
So I think they did a pretty good job with that. No, I see what you're saying, but I think it was. I'm okay with how it was handled.
Yeah, I thought it was a little because there's some like parts that I like about the movie. I think it just kind of like undercuts it. So one of the things I like about this is, and weirdly enough, I'm going to reference George Lucas on this episode.
Sure, why wouldn't you?
Well, George Lucas, did the whole hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell thing, and like the whole idea of that is that myth rhymes with itself. Like the journey up the mountain is the same journey down the mountain in reverse. And he does that in this movie a lot, where like shots are like kind of parodying each other. Like the orgy is a parody of the first party. It's like this kind of rhyming thing, and he does it a lot, and he does it kind of expertly. And as we go through, I have it all like knotted out. But like the way that like the guy tries to pick her up is the way that he tries to pick, like the way that the Hungarian guy tries to pick up...
Savos.
Yes, tries to pick up Nicole Kidman. That guy's just the smoothest.
He's the great.
I'd fuck him. So that guy, and going back to early John and Alexx hate stuff, boy, that guy is smooth as shit. Like, that is an attractive older man. God. And I have no problem with his teeth.
Well, apparently, oh my God.
No, Tom Cruise's teeth.
This might be the perfect guy for you. Yeah. Like, this checks all those boxes. But yeah, apparently his whole thing, like his drinking her drink or whatever is and then bringing up Ovid is like that's in that book when he mentions true? I forget what the Ovid book is, but it's basically about like rules on how to seduce people and how to bang chicks and whatever.
That's also like I obviously that's what he was doing, but I didn't realize he was like directly. That's awesome.
So, well, I suppose we can kind of get into it a little bit where Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, well, they're going to a party, and the party is thrown by Victor Ziegler, played by Sidney Pollack, director Sidney Pollack, which is funny. Like, there's a few directors in this movie. The Nick Nightingale, the piano player, he's a director and writer. Todd Field, he almost won an Oscar for Little Children, and was the voice of Old Drippy in Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, wow. How do you feel about Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in this?
I like them in this, and I'm not a big fan normally.
Yeah,
Of him. I've seen her in a few things that I've liked, but him is always like, it's Tom Cruise.
yeah, really, I'm the opposite. I like him more than her for the most part. Like when he tries, like I like Magnolia, or like the times where he does that, like, oh, I'm actually going to try to be an actor born on the 4th of
Yeah.
July, that sort of thing. I like him, but her accent took me out of it because I don't know what she was going for. Like she's what, Australian or something?
She's Australian, yeah.
And it's not like I don't think it's that she was doing I mean, maybe she was doing a bad American accent, but I feel like maybe she was doing a bad like Brooklyn accent. Like I don't know what it was, but like it didn't sound like human speech.
No, it's one of those things like I can't stand Ewan McGregor's American accent.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I just hate it, and I don't know why.
I think hers is the same way. And,
Sure.
But our first time we hear her speak really is talking to the Hungarian guy, and she's drunk.
Yeah, so they're at this party. They get separated, and Tom Cruise is talking to these two models that he's flirting heavily with.
Yes.
And she is waiting by the bar. Well, Tom Cruise recognizes the piano player as a guy he went to med school with. And he's like, I'm going to go try to talk to him. Nicole Kidman's like, I'll meet you by the bar. While she's waiting by the bar, she meets this guy, Sandor Savost, who's Hungarian. That's how he introduces himself,
Yeah.
which I very much enjoyed. And starts
And she says, I'm Alice. I'm American.
It's this weird, it's a two-pronged thing where it's like she's drunk, but she's also, like the first thing I thought of was there's a Saturday Night Live sketch, I think with Sharon Stone, where everyone that's talking to her just turns into an idiot because she's so pretty. Where there's like, I got a pencil.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's some of that too, where she is so taken back by this guy's like, why, hello. Because clearly her and her husband, as we learn, have this sort of strained relationship in some way. And this guy is handsome as hell, suave as hell, and is just spitting mad game.
Yeah,
as the Hungarians say.
He was just Eastern European game throwing.
But he like
Hush.
so he's really suave, and so I think it's this. I'm drunk, but I'm also being very like stupid drunk, and
Yeah.
But like I've seen something like that happen, so I think it's really weird and almost over the top.
Shortly later where she's stoned. And it's like, what's happening with your voice? Like, why couldn't she just be Australian?
See, I don't know.
He could just be married to an Australian.
Fair enough. I mean, that's fair enough. I guess I did. It never bothered me. It never stuck out to me.
The guy that's party it is, I can't remember his name.
Victor Ziegler.
Victor Siegler calls Tom Cruise up to his room because a prostitute that he's having sex with has overdosed.
Yes.
On, I don't know, snow things, snow Christmas
snowball.
balls. Hey, it's heroin and coke.
Yeah. Mandy, the prostitute, has OD'd, and there's no indication of whether this was after the fact, during the fact, or before the fact. But Sidney Pollack is putting his pants back on, and Tom Cruise shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, this lady OD'd," and fixed her up, and then Tom Cruise is like, "You know, you gotta stop doing this. This is a dead end road for you." Sidney Pollack's like, "Hey, thank you, but let's maybe shut the fuck up about this."
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the while, he is before that, he has been flirting with these two women, those two models,
Yeah.
who are leading him to where the rainbow ends, because they're leading him somewhere. It's like, where are we going? And they say, we're going where the rainbow ends. And then a one of the Victor Ziegler's people is like, excuse me a moment.
Yeah.
Will you come this way?
Now, what did that mean?
Good question, because the rainbow symbology happens a few times. And I don't know if it's supposed to just be fantasy in general, because the costume store is rainbow costumes.
Yeah, under the rainbow, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely clear, but
Yeah.
that's one read of it.
Well, also they're in the village a lot. It sounds like I'm kidding here, but I mean that is the symbol for LGBT.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
Back then LGBT, but I don't even think they had a T back then. But
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like part of that, because I also noticed this is a poignantly hetero movie, which is it's just weird going to a giant rich person orgy. I think there's two dudes making out at one point, and I guess there's the kind of lesbianic sapphic stuff, but like
But the sapphic stuff is very male gazing.
Yeah, it's performance.
Yeah.
It's not, which is odd in a kind of orgiastic sense, and especially with Kubrick, because he's I feel like he's
Mr.
not-
Orgy.
No, I feel like he's not so close-minded. So like I think that's kind of a I don't know if that's a point that he was making, or there's a thematic concern
You
there.
could argue that certainly in terms of again, if you're arguing structures of power, of it being this sort of male oriented.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because it's like this, yeah, and so that's like kind of like the undertones is the
Yeah.
rainbow of like, that's because at the rainbow place, the costumier, they've got the two
Japanese guys.
Japanese guys
Yeah.
who are cross-dressing and having sex with the underage girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is, I mean, I don't want to include that like in the the non-hetero spectrum, but like that's the only kind of non-cis normative stuff. I hate using these words because I feel like I'm either insulting people or sounding like half an asshole.
Right.
But like
Or
it is
they're
like
just
kind of
Will Wheatening it here.
yeah, no, it is like a pointed thing of like it's a super hetero movie, even though they're at a fucking weird, like they're at like a Nero like orgy. I mean, there should be people fucking their brother, and but
Yes,
it's just like
but-
nope, just good old fashioned man on woman.
Yes, but no. And again, I'll get more into that when we get there.
So they go home and Bill and Alice have sex too. They did a bad thing.
Baby did a bad
yes.
thing.
So that's terrible.
No, see, I enjoy that because like she's just looking at herself in the mirror and looking at him, and then like her expression kind of changes.
Yeah, no, she looks uncomfortable, like she's not into it. No, not the scene. The song being
Oh.
there, it fits in this movie so not at all. Like it makes no sense for it to be in
It didn't bother me. at
Oh
all.
god, that really drew me out a lot because there's no other contemporary music. Like everything
Yeah.
else is operatic or like he goes to a jazz club to see his friend. Like it's all piano and New York fancy pants music. But then it's just like, hey, look at me, I got a big dick.
Well, but I kind of
play
like that
guitar.
because there's a certain part of this movie that is for all the pomp and circumstance of these people's lives and the rich and whatever. It boils down to like gross rutting, just disguised in different forms. Because the orgy is very similar, like you said, is very similar to the Christmas party at the beginning, and the same shit's happening.
Yeah.
Where Sandor Savos is trying to bang this guy's wife, and when you boil it down, like you could strip away the Shostakovich and the glorious paintings and the finery robes, and then it's just Chris Isaac going like, "I like butts."
Yeah.
His famous song.
I guess
like
I just
butts.
don't want. I guess I just don't want to. I don't want to be challenged with that by Southern blues. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather approach it in a more intellectual manner, other than like something that should be on. It sounds like the theme to True Blood.
But it's also just funny because I remember that bit being such a selling point for the movie. It's like, oh, it's so steamy. It's Cruise and Kidman. And that scene is really not that erotic.
Yeah, she's
particularly with everything that comes afterwards. And like, you watch it and you're like, oh man, this is weird.
And she's also, and not just her, him. They're both the least sexual attractive people alive. Like there is no sexuality with either of them, and maybe it's just because they have no chemistry, even though they're married. Like,
Yeah, see, I disagree. I'd go to town on either of them.
oh wait, no, I mean they're both very attractive, but there's no like, I don't know, they both seem like asexual, like they're like to be looked at. So after the scene that you love so much too, Baby Did a Bad Thing, we get a montage of what their days are like, where
Yes.
she's at home kind of distractedly smoking cigarettes and taking care of her kid, and oh yeah, and here's a kind of an important setup. So the first thing we see at his job is him giving an exam to an incredibly attractive woman, topless, and her first line of argument when they get high later is, "Oh, you're at your office with these statuesque people feeling their tits."
Yeah.
And that's such an idiotic thing for her to say because that's not what doctors do. But he made Kubrick made
it
a point of
absolutely-
actually
yeah.
filming like
Yeah.
absolutely. That lady was probably in the orgy party later.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she is because that's the way he works. But
Yeah, and so after that exploration of their lives, it's them at home later, and Nicole Kidman decides to roll a joint. Then they get into this argument where she's like, "Hey, those models you were talking to, did you went away for a while? Did you fuck one of them?" And he's like, "Oh, of course not."
at that speed, they said it too because this is not the most laboriously long thing that's ever
Oh,
happened.
I love it. Having been in high arguments before.
Those two girls
Yeah.
that you did you happen to fuck them?
It's also Kubrick, so of
No,
course
no.
it's laborious.
No. I kind of love it, but I also just kind of like, this is fucking absurd.
Yeah.
I guess I see the comedy. I guess that could have been a much more comedic beat if this was done. If that was Woody Allen and Mia Farrow, that could have been actually funny.
But some of it works as a comedy with in terms of like this argument is kind of ridiculous, and then like what happens afterwards, and just the universe cucking Tom Cruise because it is Tom Cruise, and him just never being able to seal the deal. There is something sort of hilarious
it's more
about that.
it's more like a farce than a like the
More
comedy
like
in a Shakespearean
Yeah,
way.
Fraser
where-
Crane going, versus me laughing at Ace Ventura.
Oh, good lord!
Oh, my word.
You ever see that clip where he falls off the stage and he goes, "Oh, good lord!"
Yes,
Yes,
it's
it's the
great.
greatest thing ever.
That is my ringtone.
So, this is where she tells the story that she is last year they're in a hotel.
Before we get to that, though, I feel like we should give the build-up where he's saying that he wouldn't have sex with these people because she's his wife and he loves her.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, you're saying you'd only do this sort of out of fidelity to me. That doesn't mean that you don't want to. Fidelity. That's going to come up again.
Their insurance company.
And then she's like, what about me? And he's like, well, basically, guys are only talking to you because they want to fuck you. And she's like, well, how dare you? I also have my own sort of inner sex life and inner fantasies, and spills this out in the story.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Wait, actually, no, let me go back to this part that you corrected me for skipping that you skipped, because it's so important. I totally forgot about this, where he basically says, well, no, of course, women don't get horny.
Yeah, basically,
No,
yeah.
he literally, because she's like, millions upon millions of years of evolution means guys want to fuck everything and women just, it's like,
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, pretty much. Like, oh, that is some unevolved shit right there.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that part, and that's when she launches into the soldier story.
Yeah, they went on vacation like the previous year or a couple years ago, and she just saw this guy this Navy guy in the lobby of the hotel. They made eye contact, and she was like, "Yeah, no, I'll give this all up to fuck that guy. I'll throw away my whole life to have sex with this dude." And that starts Tom Cruise going insane.
Yeah.
And he's upset, but then he gets a phone call that some patient of his has died, and so he has to leave.
Yes. But at this point, so this goes back to the kind of the nature of this movie of, what's reality, what's the difference between a dream and the real world or whatever.
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to me until watching it this time. Did that happen?
Well,
Or was she just making something up because she just wanted to get in his head?
right. That's a good point, because particularly her other dream later that she's weirdly upset about, she wakes up just to humiliate him, and then it's like, oh, I feel bad about that.
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, yeah. There's no evidence one way or the other.
Because watching it this time, I was reading much more like anger towards him, like her being like, oh, fuck this fucking guy. So she knew, because if she had said she fucked somebody, he would have been less upset.
Yeah.
Than her imagining it and saying, I would leave you. And that's like the worst thing he could have heard.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, did she just make that up? Like, was that improv to just be like, fuck you, dude?
Yeah, could be. I mean, like, there is so much of this movie that is ambiguous in great ways. And I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that could absolutely just be, because he even says, like, you're trying to pick a fight with me.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And
So
it could just be her being like,
because it's a fucking, that's a power move. Yeah. So he gets called by his one of his patients who has passed away, and he meets Marion, who is the patient's daughter. Marion basically, with her dad dead on the bed next to them, professes her love for Tom Cruise.
yeah, she starts talking about her life, and then he's like, no, it's going to be great. You're going to move to Michigan with your fiance, and it's going to be great. That's fine. And then, yeah, she's just like, oh my God, I love you.
Yeah, kisses him awkwardly. He doesn't pull away quick enough, which
No.
I kind of like.
Yeah.
But here's what's great about that is her saying, I'm going to throw my whole life away. And this is that first echo. It's literally, she's doing the exact same thing that Nicole Kidman did. And this is where, because some of the other stuff that I said was a little ham-handed, I want to love how deftly that was done. But since other stuff was kind of ham-fisted, I went, was that a little on the nose? Because now my on the nose meter is up. Because it literally was the previous scene,
Right.
her saying that, and then it cuts to this, and this goes back to the editing thing, is I actually could have used a walk between those two scenes.
Well, see, for me, what I liked about that, though, is her being like, because it was that, yes, it was certainly this, like, Tom Cruise immediately being introduced to this, like, here's a situation, you are upset, you are feeling jealous, here is this, like, I want to be with you kind of thing.
Well, it's the exact situation.
It's
Literally,
yeah.
it's
that she wants to
throwing my life away for you. You don't know me.
But then the husband shows up, and the husband
Criminal fucking minds himself.
looks exactly like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
And that was like, that changed the whole thing for me, because it's like this weird twinning thing, and also in terms of, you want to argue like the whole like dreamlike state kind of characters get sort of subbed in and out like that, like with him and this guy, and then like the prostitute and her roommate. They just sort of like But like because of that, it's just this mirror image of what just happened.
Yeah.
And I think that probably freaked him out a little bit. But I also like that as well as sort of in terms of a guy's sort of journey into his attempt at sexual depravity or whatever is being his first thing he encounters is the exact same thing he was trying to escape from.
Yeah, and also I can't tell you enough how much I love that it's the guy from Criminal Minds. I know that's his later career.
I just know him from Dharma and Greg.
Oh, I don't even know. I've never even seen that show. Was that a guy from Dharma and Greg?
He was Greg.
Oh, no shit. Oh yeah, so this is he leaves because Criminal Minds shown up and
Right.
he bounces, and he walks around New York. He's getting mad. He's like picturing his wife getting banged by the Navy guy,
And punching his fist.
and he's pissed. He's mad.
Yeah.
And then some street ruffians, some not very New York looking street.
Oh, they're not.
ruffians.
Well, they're from Boston. They're all wearing like I forget if it's Yale or Harvard
Oh, is that
shirts.
true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like it's very Boston. I'm pretty sure the mayor of Boston was in there. Because they're
Yeah.
immediately just like saying homophobic epithets at him.
Yeah, it's super. Yeah, it's a really awkward scene. I don't get what happened here, but I'm glad it happened. But
No, I get it's just these Bostonites being very from Boston, like challenging his sexuality further because they're
Yeah.
calling him queer and whatever, and making blowjob jokes at him.
this is where an incredibly attractive street hooker.
Yeah.
Which I know nothing about a hookerdom
Have you never seen Pretty Woman?
other than Pretty Woman.
Right.
Uh,
The
I know-
documentary. Pretty
I know
Woman.
very little about hookerdom. A street, she's like $1,000 a night looking lady, and she's
Right.
just like, she picks some rando up off the street.
Well, you could argue two things. One, yeah, it's a movie.
yeah,
The other being like there is this sort of like dreamlike quality to it, and they say that because so much of this movie is filmed with like rear projection, when like Tom Cruise walking down the street, whenever you see him head on, like there's just rear projected.
Oh, is that
New
why
York
that
behind
looks
him.
weird like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Stanley Kubrick like hated traveling, fear of flying, or whatever. So some people, I have seen the argument that it's like, well, he wanted to make a more dreamlike state, but then it's also like, yeah, I just want to go to New York. He's an old man, so.
I think probably
I don't know.
maybe a
it works.
combo
It's-
platter,
yeah.
but like I would actually think it's more aesthetic choice because like it's the same
I
thing with like
it's also like for how meticulous Kubrick is, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt with that.
because also like there's a lot of like lighting stuff in here
Yeah.
which is like super kind of it has that same kind of weird washed out dreamlike quality.
Yeah, and there are Christmas lights everywhere, this is a great Christmas movie.
Yeah, this is a Die Hard level Christmas
Yeah.
movie. So this very attractive prostitute picks him up, and he's like, yeah,
Domino.
I guess, she turns out she's very lucky. Helps Deadpool out a lot.
Yes.
They go to their place, and he's.
Please compare Stanley Kubrick to Deadpool 2.
I already did. Rob Liefeld. So he picks up this prostitute, and they go back to her place, and it's awkward, and he's like, oh, this place is cozy. And they kiss, which is gross. It's just, I know you want to be unfaithful to your wife, but like, do you really want to just jump straight to like herpes?
Yep.
Because like he's a doctor. It's
Yeah.
not like he's unaware of the horrors
Right.
that must be in this.
But he has-
sex worker. My apologies.
But he has access to the secret medicine that no one else has. Only doctors have.
oh, okay.
Infowars.com.
yeah.
But yeah, Domino, first of all, that's a kind of mask. And also she is wearing purple, which is the color of their bed sheets at home. I don't know if that means anything, but it's Stanley Kubrick, so it might.
Purple, also the color that the Romans donned when they climbed the Cursus Honorum, which is the kind of the senatorial campaigns, which means that they're much like Romans, much like Roman orgies, thus purple. Also made from crushing up snails, which you may have referenced earlier, that there is the hidden sacred geometry inside of a snail circle, the
Right.
Fibonacci spiral, which you see echoed inside. Oh God! Wait, sorry. I just became a Stanley Kubrick fan for a moment. My apologies.
No, that's boring. The real thing is that it's an allusion to Mr. Glass from Unbreakable.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he gets a call from his wife. He's got a sweet StarTech.
Yeah. They're about to seal the deal, and then he gets a call from Nicole Kidman being like, what's good? Where you at?
Yeah. What's up, bro? You up?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I gotta go. Can't stress enough. Oh, I love it. Cell phone, flip phone, StarTech. Love it. He's like, yeah, I gotta go. I really would like to, but this is another one of those rhyming moments. The way he says no to her is the same way she said no to the Hungarian
Yes.
guy in that another kind of rhyming thing of like this kind of like, oh God, I want it, but no,
But also in this situation, like when they're like, she invites him in, he says like, so basically how much we talking here? And she's like, what do you want? And he's like, what do you recommend? And she's like, I don't want to tell you. How about 150? He's like, that sounds great. And so he is like, well, I don't want to, I bothered you. I don't want to go through with this, but I troubled you for your time. Here's $150. Again, Tom Cruise just being completely transactional.
Yes.
And gives her the money, and then leaves still angry.
I do like the whole rhyming thing of, the way he says no to her, same as she says to Hungarian. So he wanders over to the jazz club where his friend... The Sonata Club, where Nick Nightingale, who's playing. Now, John, what does Nick Nightingale do?
He plays piano.
What are Nightingales very famous for?
Playing piano.
No singing.
Oh.
Why is he not a singer and his name is Nick Nightingale, you son of a fuck?
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick is actually in that scene. He's in the background of that scene.
I heard that on the trivia as I was breezing through when you arrived earlier, and that's about the only one I read.
I'm surprised you know. There's a scene he waves and then he winks and then touches his nose and then goes up a chimney.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah.
We're enough going up a chimney like flue powder because Grigorovich from the Harry Potter movies is in this film.
Who?
Grigorovich, the wand maker. He made Victor Krumm's wand, probably the last wand he made.
He
once owned one of the Deathly Hallows. I mean, come on, John.
Who is he in Eyes Wide Shut?
The guy that owned the costume shop.
Oh, that guy. That guy is like, that guy had a good run in the late 90s, early 2000s.
What do I know him from? I was trying to figure it out.
Snatch. He's the unkillable Russian in Snatch.
That's exactly.
The Saint with Val Kilmer.
No, it's Snatch. It's exactly
it's The Saint with Val Kilmer. Everyone loves that movie.
One, seen that movie more than once.
Oh yes,
I actually do enjoy it. But two, no, it's totally Snatch.
Yeah, no,
I went through his IMDb and I'm like, I think I know him from everything he's been in that's American.
Yeah, he's been like the crazy Russian in several movies.
So he goes to his friend, Nick Nightingale, famous for his singing, so he's playing piano. And he's like, hey, showed up late. Sorry to, show up late. And he's like, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And awkward conversation. The point is, Nick is on his way to a very secretive appointment. And he's kind of laughing about it, but laughing in a very kind of scared way. Tom Cruise somehow gets the information out of him.
Well, because he's the guy, he mentions, he's like, well, I've got another gig tonight after this is over. It's this weird thing. They call me up ahead of time. And I don't know where it's going to be at, and it's all wild. And he gets the phone call for the place, and then he writes down the word Fidelio.
Yes,
which is apparently a Beethoven opera, or is it, I forget who the composer was.
I think it's Beethoven.
Tom Cruise sees what it says and like, well, what's this? And he's like, I can't talk about it. I gotta go. And Tom Cruise is like, come on, we're friends. Tom Cruise is just looking to do whatever. He does not want to go home, and maybe get some strange. So go to the Bone Zone. So he's like, let me go. And it's like, well, you need to, there's costumes. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I do also like where he goes, I play blindfolded. Seriously, I play like I like that kind of reveal of just him being kind of freaked out. But also Nick Nightingale, dude, what the fuck are you telling this asshole for?
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's. I think the idea is, because I would totally do this. Where it'd be like, well, you're not gonna go do this. I can just tell you, and it's safe and whatever.
Well, that's why you're not a part of my secrets. So anyway,
that's why I do this podcast blindfolded.
Heyo. He goes to an apartment building that has a costume shop under and at the main floor as well, which, God, that's got to be some fucking expensive ass rent.
Yeah.
And apparently it was one of his ex-patients.
Yes, that owns Rainbow Costumes.
Rainbow Costumes. He walks up the steps. The lower steps entrance says Under the Rainbow. And then I think maybe that's just the name of the shop.
I just saw Rainbow. Yeah. That's
it's a Rainbow Connection.
Right. It was a Rainbow Connection.
And Grigorovich from the Deathly Hallows. So it's like, hey, blah, blah, okay, give me money. I'll let you in.
Well, what I love about this is the first time, and not the only time it does it, where he flashes his doctor badge like it's a cop thing. In terms of the themes of this movie that were really, but the sort of like, I'm upper class. Look at me. I'm an authority because I have this doctor's badge. I'm a legitimate person.
Yeah. That's probably what they meant it. I kind of took it, and this would be exactly what I would do if I were a doctor. Be like, everybody trusts doctors. Look, I'm a doctor, so you have to trust me. Like, look, we have shorthand. We live in the same world. I do love that. And he basically, he bribes Grigorovich, because
it's fine.
I don't think he has his name, to let him in.
It's fine.
And would you know it off the top of your head?
Yep.
Oh, what is it?
Not Grigorovich. That's his
right.
name.
Not. Interesting name. What's that, Romanian?
Yes.
So he goes into the shop and they're looking for his cloak, his tux, his hood, and his mask. And he finds in the side room there is old Chinese food and tittering. And turns out two Asian men in heavily make-up and only wearing Speedos are in there with his underage daughter.
Yes. Lily Sobieski.
And he feigns outrage.
Well, eventually we find out it's feigned. But
Yeah.
for all we know right now, he is angry. And he is like, how dare you? She is just a child. She comes running out only in her underwear, hugs Tom Cruise, and whispers in his ear. And apparently, according to the script, what she whispers is, your cloak will need an ermine lining, or something to that effect.
Oh, so she's been there.
I don't know. Because like there's a repeated back and forth between him and the cloak dealer about what color cloak. Or it's like red, no, I'll just do black. No, you want something more colorful? No. And then later it's like, what color? What color? It happens again and again and again. But yeah, it's this weird thing, and then he locks the two guys in, and he's like, nope, this is a matter for the police, and then goes right back to helping Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Well, so it depends. I mean, this goes back to the, what do you trust in this movie? So, in the scene, he's supposed to be angry, but it's revealed late. It doesn't matter. Fast. In a scene later, he drops the costume off, and those two men are leaving pleasantly, and it's like, hey, see you around, buddies. Glad you double teamed my underage daughter.
And then offers her to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, which also would have made sense if this were a Woody Allen film.
Right, yes.
Yeah, if that were Woody Allen and Mia Farrow.
But this happened on screen. No, I guess that's true with Manhattan.
Yeah.
There was a younger lady. But, so he ends up getting the cloak and then takes a cab to this location. Again, Tom Cruise, being all transactional, is like, he's like, hey, wait outside for me, rips a $100 bill in half. Because he first of all, to get the Russian guy to open the store, he offers money above the price of the costume.
Yeah.
Because it's late at night.
Which Tom Cruise, fat stacks. Like, I know he's a doctor, but he's walking around with hundreds upon hundreds of dollars.
That's all he knows.
Yeah.
And then tells the cab driver, like, he rips a $100 bill in half, and he's like, I'll give you half now and then half when I come out if you'll wait for me. Goes inside, and that's when the orgy scene happens. Now, the orgy scene, that was such, like, a big deal at the time because it was sort of like famously, because it was supposed to be NC-17 because of this orgy scene. And they ended up digitally adding nude women, the backs of nude women, to cover things up.
Awful.
Technically, it's awful. It stands out really bad. But in terms of the feeling of the scene, and granted, in terms of what the filmmaker wanted to do, yes, I'm against it. But in terms of what it actually did, I don't think is that bad because it made the sex seem more remote and more mechanical than if, like, I mean, it's hard to say, it's hard to give a comparison, but because it was like even more distant and weird than just watching, particularly now where porn is, like if you think about it, with Wi-Fi being everywhere and cell phone data being everywhere, you're eating pornography all the time because you're ingesting those signals.
Yeah, we should think about it that way, John.
Yeah, we should.
That's the way Wi-Fi works.
Infowars.com.
Yes.
But
like you ever see that video clip where Lucille Ball claimed to have intercepted Nazi messages on her teeth fillings? Mm-hmm. That's basically what you just did with your understanding of Wi-Fi.
Both are true.
Yes. Yeah. I'm eating pornography right now.
Yeah. We all are.
Well, I just, they were sport fucking in the orgy, and I think that was going to do the job of non-sexualizing it in the same way he did in Clockwork Orange, where like in the scene where they do the fast forward sex with the two girls, where I think Kubrick knows how to make it not sexy. Like, and one, just the bad CGI annoyed me, and two, the unedited version came out in the mid 2000s because I watched it. Why the hell did I watch the edited version this time? Like, why is that the available one?
Yeah, I don't know.
That annoys me.
That's a whole other discussion about streaming services and what's available. And
because especially, and not even just the bad CGI, because it's not the worst I've seen, but I don't know. I think
it's obvious.
If anybody should have the fucking like carte blanche to make a movie the way he wants to make it, it's fucking Stanley Kubrick.
You would think.
It's cute. Like, of course you just, anyway. But, another, the thing we kind of skipped over, and I think it's somewhat important, is that Tom Cruise's mask kind of looks like Tom Cruise.
Well, apparently it's a mask of Brian O'Neill, from Barry Lyndon. And so this scene, I mean, this is the center of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like this is
Oh, wait,
the
wait,
thing.
sorry, wait.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a point with the mask of how fine, it's somebody else, but it looks like Tom Cruise, similar to Tom Cruise. I think that is important that he's in a place with a mask on that kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
In the same way, that whole echoing thing is that in his real life, he's putting on a mask to be the husband.
Right.
It's just an important point to make before we get into the literal orgy that
Right.
happens in the movie. That we've established this whole like mask wearing concept, and how it's reflected back in his real life, and how the party he's at now is an echo of the party he was at earlier when he's wearing his face. You know, why are you wearing that human mask? You know, my favorite movie, Donnie Darko.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love this scene. And this took a lot of shit because people were like, oh, an orgy scene. And then they're like, oh, it's very like religious and stodgy. Absolutely it is.
Yeah, love
like
it.
this is basically, you know, we danced around kind of talking about like this sort of being a movie about power. This is some weird like skull and bones shit. It's not just people being like, one of my favorite takes of this was or parodies of this was in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dennis, the character Dennis, wants to experience some weird sex stuff, and Danny DeVito's character's like, I'll take you to this orgy I go to. And they all put on masks and cloaks, and the password is orgy. And they go and it's all these gross people just eating at a buffet and whatever, and it's great. But like the pomp of all this is kind of the point. Like it's this big huge ceremony. It's like Skull and Bones jerking off on Geronimo's skull or whatever.
Well, so we're introduced to it via this man in a kind of Catholic red cloak.
Yes.
Swinging a censer of incense around a group of people in black cloaks knelt before him.
Yeah.
And the music is this weird music, and I think it's backward mass vocals.
It's backward talking. I did not want to like find out what that was
either.
because I don't want to know. It's not the point.
I was hoping you would have done this because I was like, I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole.
No, exactly. Like I don't, because I'm not going to learn anything. And what I do find out, I'm not going to be
my problem
fulfilled
is
by
I'll
that.
likely believe it. Is my problem. So it's just like
It's what it is backwards is 2 all beef patty special sauce.
Yes,
yeah.
Then the black cloaks stand up, and it turned out they're all buxom, naked women.
And they're all wearing like just plain ass masks. Like not like, I mean, there's ornamentation to them, but they're just like white masks basically.
Yeah, and this is reminiscent of earlier Kubrick, that scene in Clockwork Orange where he's going for the Ludovico treatment when he's done, when he's vomiting on the woman standing on stage, and she's completely, I mean, she's attractive as all hell, but she's sexless. Like it's just, this is a temptation, and here is this literal orgiastic, this man in red swinging, you know, he's consecrating them to let them out loose.
Now, there is an argument or a reading in this film that involves this sort of being a flight of fancy for Tom Cruise's character, which I don't necessarily support, but the idea of these women kind of being sexless, but they're sort of supports what you were saying earlier with like the woman in the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Where these women being presented as that. But I think it's more just, I take it more, I guess, literal in terms of it being this orgy for the powerful that they're dressing up in fanciness, but still being all weird and kind of sexless in that regard as well, because it doesn't matter. It's not about how sexy something is.
Yeah, no, it's power. I mean, this is. I mean, I think this is a metaphor for fucking kids. I mean, I think that's what. It's not like he could film that, but I mean, this is supposed to be that conspiracy of silence shit. That
which drives me nuts when people are like, oh, it's the Illuminati. It's like this shit's actually happening. Yeah, like you don't need to dress up with Pizzagate and all this stuff. Like, and I'm not even alleging like a huge conspiracy, but just like people in power doing awful shit like this. Look up Jeffrey Epstein. Look up, look up Harvey Weinstein. Yeah. Like just all this shit's happening.
Well, Conspiracy of Silence was this banned PBS documentary. Right. Yeah, that it was literally members of our Congress that were trading children to fuck. Like,
well, there was that whole British thing too.
Yeah, with Jeremy Savile, whatever his name is.
Well, there was that guy, but I feel like there was also like in political realms there was that stuff too.
But so yeah, this is a power structure. This is not meant to be sexy. Yeah. But but it's gorgeous. This scene
it's wonderful,
and that's what I think that makes the CGI bother me more, because Stanley Kubrick is so good at framing shots that it's just like, you put just kind of.
It seems weird.
But he's walking around, and it seems like so at one point he's spotted by somebody in a mask.
Yes, that is this is one of my favorite interactions in any movie. And not to be hyperbolic about it, but I genuinely love this, where just the way the camera kind of zooms in and the person in the creepy mask and the person behind them like turns and looks at Tom Cruise. And there's theories that it's Victor Ziegler. There's theories that it's this guy or that guy. It doesn't matter.
No.
It's just that they see Tom Cruise. And they kind of give the head nod, and it could be taken as, who do you just cocked in? Hey, what's up? You know what's good. We're going to do some fucking. Or it's like, all right, I'm immediately skeptical of what's happening here.
Well, all right.
It's creepy. I love it.
So my read of this is that's Victor Ziegler, which is the only way that the prostitute that warns him off knows who he is. Because Victor goes, hey, because he knows her. That's the one that OD'd in the bathroom. Be like, hey, you got to go. That's give my boy a little dramatic warning. Because this is, and the reading I have, and not to fast forward through it, but like later in the film, there's this talk, and we're going to get into that in depth because it's the other best scene in the movie.
Oh, it's, yes.
Where it's like, no, this was all a show. This is pageantry. And all of the danger, because he gets warned off by one of the masked women, the naked masked women, who I think we're meant to believe is the one that had overdosed in the previous party.
Well, yeah. So this is we talk about the pageantry and the pomp of this, and it is that the masked ladies do this thing where they kiss each other through the masks. It's just these cold masks just touching each other, and then the guy in the red taps his staff a couple of times in front of one, and then they wander off and choose someone. And this one woman chooses Tom Cruise, and they walk away, and that's when she warns. She's like, what are you doing here? Because he's staring at her the whole time. When they're walking down the hall, everyone else is straight forward, but he's looking at her. Yeah. She's like, you should not be here.
Yeah, you have no idea the danger you're in. And she's saying in a very hyperbolic way. These are grandiose statements. It's
yes,
not
but not over dramatic. But yes, certainly just like that you are about to be shot out of a cannon into the sun.
But it's scripted. It's purposefully words a human wouldn't use. Because all right, so he warns her off. He's wandering around some more. He's essentially. I don't think there's anything else important until he gets called to the kind of the judge area.
Yeah. So what happened? Yeah. He's walking around. He sees more weird fucking, which is kind of hilarious because we talked about sort of the male gaze, but it's like there's people just going to town on each other, and there's a couple ladies rubbing some boobs.
Oh yeah.
It's just I don't know. It just doesn't really fit.
No. I know the exact two you're talking about as well.
I don't know if eating so much pornography has ruined my brain, but I kind of it would be kind of great though. And I'm glad they didn't, but it'd be kind of great if it was super weird. Whereas there's here's these people just fucking on the back of some guy, and next to them is someone just farting into cakes.
Yeah.
It's yes, the elite and powerful cake farts.
Yes. That's in the other room, or at least that's the Tuesday ritual.
Yeah.
So
there's some whispering behind him. The guy with the kind of pointy mask that recognized him at the beginning walks in with some other masked woman, and she starts talking to him. And then the initial masked woman, who was taken away from him earlier, comes back in and is like, oh, there you are. Let's go chat. She takes him aside again and is like, look, get out. We know what's up. Get out of here. And then he's called back to the tribunal.
Well, before the tribunal, he walks through a bunch of rooms where people are slow dancing to strangers in the night.
Yes.
Naked.
Which, am I nuts, or is that also featured in The Shining?
I think it is, or a song half a beat away from it. I think
because it sounded very, very familiar to me, and it would be very fitting. That kind of it's evil but a different kind of evil.
I think it's either that or a song that's a song next door kind of thing.
Because basically this whole scene is the guy blowing the guy in the dog costume in The Shining.
Oh yeah,
this whole movie is that.
So this is where here's color weirdness. He walks through the slow dancing strangers to this court scene, and it is this this guy in this dramatic mask in the middle, and it's like, come, the dramatic.
So he's led in front of the guy that was with what'd you call it, censure?
Yeah, censor. I don't know how to say it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The main dude is there, and Tom Cruise gets brought in front of him, and he's like, what are you doing here? And it's like, well, what's the password? And he's like, what's the password for the house? You got the entrance password. What's the password for the house? And Tom Cruise is like, I seem to have forgotten it. And the guy's like, aha, screw you. We know you're a fake. And then the woman in the mask was...
no, first he goes, take off your mask.
Take off your mask, yeah. So Tom Cruise has to take off the mask. He's like, now take off your clothes. Yeah. Tom Cruise is like, I'm not doing that. It's like, you do it or we'll do it.
Yeah. Now the prostitute that talked to him earlier, who I call Featherhead... Mm-hmm. Shows up in this dramatic angle in the balcony, just framed in this archway. Yeah. And she goes, stop! Yes. She's like, I shall take on his burden or whatever it is. And it's, take me! I am ready to redeem him. Yes. And then he goes, thanks. And then the guy in red goes, when a promise has been made here, there is no turning back. Mm-hmm. And it's super dramatic and silly. And it's amazing that you don't pick up on the fact that this is all a show.
See, I don't know that it is.
Oh, I think it totally is.
I think it's both, frankly. We'll get to that in the final scene.
It's
but
more her that she is scripted. Like
it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Certainly. But so then he's like, all right, well she's taking the hit for you, but you don't fucking tell anybody about this, or this bad things are gonna happen, and releases him. He leaves, goes home, shoves the costume in a drawer somewhere or whatever, and then the next day is him sort of reliving everything he did the night before.
Well, we're not the next day yet because he goes home, hides the costume, and this is where she's laughing. Alice is laughing in her sleep.
Yeah, she's laughing in her sleep, and then he wakes her up, and she's like, "Oh, I just had the worst dream." Oh, sorry.
If I may,
please do.
We were in a deserted city, and our clothes were gone. We were naked, and I was terrified. I felt ashamed, and I was angry because I thought it was your fault, and you rushed away to find my clothes for us. As soon as you're gone, it was different. I felt wonderful. I was in a garden, stretched out naked in the sunlight. A man walked out of the woods. He was the man from the hotel, the naval officer. He stared at me. Then he just laughed. He just laughed at me. But that's not the end, is it? Why don't you tell me the end? No, it's too awful, but it's only a dream. He was kissing me, and then we were making love, and then there were all these other people around us, hundreds, everyone was fucking, and then I was fucking other men, so many, I don't know how many, and I knew you could see me in the arms of all these men, just fucking all these men, and I wanted to make fun of you, to laugh in your face, and so I laughed as loud as I could. That must have been when you woke me up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Subtle, lady.
And then she starts crying, and it's like, it was so terrible. But it's like, she's awful.
Yeah. No, she is trying to get in his head so fucking bad. That's why I went back and typed that whole fucking scene out, because I'm like, oh, because I go back to the naval officer thing. I go, oh, there's no naval officer. You just said that to get this fucking dude's head, because that's why she called it back. Yeah.
But it's like, after tonight, this is what I get. Like, you don't even know what I've been up to. So he goes to bed, not knowing all that. So the next day, he goes to like retrace his steps, and he tries to go to the Sonata Club, which is closed. I forget. Does he go to the costume shop first, or does he go to the Sonata Club?
He goes to the Sonata Club first because he's carrying his costume.
And the Sonata Club is not open yet. So he goes to the this diner next door. Talks to the woman. It's like, do you know when they open? And
flashes his
doctor badge because she's like, he asks about Nick Knight, and he goes like, oh, I know Nick, and he's like, can I get in contact with him? And she's like, I'm not gonna give out his information. He's like, Dr. Dragnet, give me his info. And she's like, oh, okay. He's staying at this hotel, and he goes to the hotel and talks to the clerk played by Alan Cumming.
Boy, Alan Cumming is like, you got to be over the top. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he is a little, but like, it's weird.
Well, but this goes back to the whole thing of like, everyone in this movie wants to bang Tom Cruise. Everyone he encounters like seems to want to like throw themselves at Tom Cruise, but he just can't seal the deal, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But he's really skeptical about Tom Cruise. Asks him about this guy's, are you a cop? But then Tom Cruise, I think, flashes the doctor badge here too, or at least mentions that he's a doctor, and he's like, oh, well, honey, and then dishes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they brought this guy in like with other guys. And he seemed kind of weird, and they rushed him out here, and he checked out, and he had a scar, he had a bruise on his face, and it was all very suspect. So Tom Cruise was like, okay, well, there's a conspiracy happening here. Like, there's some serious shit happening with this sex cult that I've just encountered.
He goes, the next scene is he goes to Under the Rainbow, which we basically covered the scene already, where Grigorovich says, hey, welcome back, you can fuck my daughter.
But you forgot the mask.
$500.
Yeah, like, here's the thing, but you don't have the mask.
Also, the mask only costs $25.
Yeah.
Which, very reasonable prices at Grigorovich's.
Yeah, he's reasonable. Despite
so it's like,
being
hey,
from a Harry Potter thing.
By the way, if you'd like to fuck my daughter, she's right there.
Yeah.
You may notice that she is my daughter, and she's underage, so if you'd like to have sex with her, because this movie paints the world in a beautiful light. And Tom Cruise is like, well, thank you, but no.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm all right for now.
Scientology provides me with everything I need in that department.
Maybe later, I just got to go back to the scene of the Illuminati sex dungeon party.
Mm-hmm.
This is where, so he drives back, gets his car out of storage, he drives back up to Long Island, where the fuck they are.
to Somerton, which is the name of the house.
And that's where he gets the note, because the guy drives down and kind of mean mugs him and hands him.
At first I thought it was Joe Turkel. who was the bartender in The Shining, was Terrell in
Oh,
Blade
yeah,
Runner.
yeah, okay.
But I think he was probably long dead by that point. I'm not sure when that guy passed
Yeah.
away. But yeah, this butler hands him this typed note that says like, "Hey, yeah, just don't.
He said, yeah, consider this your second warning.
Yeah, just it's going to be fruitless. Don't get into this.
Yeah.
Just back off."
So he's like, oh, that sucks. So he drives back to his office.
But yet again, another shot of Tom Cruise like behind bars. Like while he's waiting, he's behind the gate. While he's waiting for the rainbow guy to come down, he's behind the bars of the door. Tom Cruise is in a prison of his own making throughout this movie.
Yeah, or he's just in a city that's kind of safety conscious. Yeah. You know, it depends. It depends on how deep you want to read into it. Mm-hmm. So he drives back to the office to brood some more, and he calls the dead dad lady from earlier. But Criminal Minds picks up, and he's like, ah, crap.
Yeah, it's like,
I guess,
ugh.
yeah, I can't have sex with you.
Yeah, my last ditch effort.
Maybe I could, but not quite last ditch because he's going to go to the prostitute's place.
Back to the prostitute with some pastries.
He meets a roommate who this is an incredibly awkward scene. So
it's so great.
He's all up on her, untying her clothes, and he's like, oh yeah, well, when's she gonna be back? And it's getting all sexy times. Unties her shirt that's tied up, starts feeling her tits. To which she goes into a speech about how her roommate just tested positive for HIV.
Well, but I like that.
That is such a fucking awkward scene.
But here's what's great about that. First of all, he's like, well, your roommate's with a prostitute. You must also be a prostitute.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a leap.
No, but then she's like that. But she's kind of into it because he's Tom Cruise. He's a handsome guy. But she's like, I got to protect myself. This lady got the bug. You know, sit down. I got to tell you that. And Tom Cruise is like, oh boy, does the whole like finger in the collar thing.
Yeah.
Oy. Steam actually shoots out. That was in the uncut version.
CGI steam.
CGI steam. And then Tom Cruise is like, oh, well, that sucks. And then leaves. Again, not being able to seal the deal.
Yeah, that was really
And
awkward.
he never goes like, oh, well, we didn't actually bang, so we're fine. But he's just like, again, the ramifications of sex, like the aftermath is a thing that like hits him. Because I think that's what stops him in the first place with Nicole Kidman is that he actually when he's about to get with the prostitute and she calls, he's like, oh right, like I have a life,
yeah,
and I have to live with this. And I think that he, as much as he wants to have these fantasies, he also knows he can't actually live with it. That conflict is a central driving thing of his character, I think.
Yeah, and not to like kind of discount the movie's narrative and like the character motivations, but this guy really needs to get a massage with a happy ending, and his life would be a lot better.
Yeah, but he can't
because he gets he probably could because it's just like it's fine, it's clinical. He's a doctor.
He would feel so terrible. He can't. He is so hung up about. He can't believe that a woman has actual sex fantasies.
Yeah,
he can't do it.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like the type he would feel bad. I bet he could cheat and kind of get over it in a few weeks.
I think he would feel bad. I think for as weird and sort of transactional as he is, this isn't like and I don't mean this as like this sort of like inner humanity that he has. That he's actually a good person, but like something always stops him, and it's not always just like weird. Like he stops himself. Like he's got hang-ups about this stuff.
Yeah, he just seems like a sleazo. So like you get over it. Anyway. So he's more discordant piano, and he's walking. Turns out he's being followed.
Yes,
and it's like. It becomes very obvious. He makes turns. The guy that's following him kind of stares at him. He kind of looks like the principal from Back to the Future.
You know who he looks like to me? The guy that Darkman takes over in Darkman.
Oh yeah, he does look like that. Yeah.
It might be that same actor. I don't know.
The Darkman, And so he sneaks off into a cafe and orders a cappuccino. And he reads a thing in the paper about a dead beauty queen.
Well, so this is great because the headline on the front, it's the New York Post. The headline on the front is like "Lucky to be alive," which is sort of telling of his situation in terms of the perceived threat. But also in that article, if you look in the article, the prostitute that is dead, the beauty queen that is dead, that he immediately takes as like, oh, this is the woman in the mask from earlier. She is apparently OD'd in a hotel room. In the article, it says she was a fashion model. She was an ex-beauty queen, was getting into fashion modeling, and was dating fashion designer Leon Vitali. Now, that's a fun little like, no, I'm making props and I'm just going to put the guy's name in here. It's Leon. We all know Leon. It's fun. But it's also sort of in the terms of the movie and, this weird sort of meta thing around it is like, was Leon Vitali the fashion designer, the guy in the suit? You know what I mean? Like, because it's Kubrick and you can get all 237 with it.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That like, because there was a thing I watched that made these giant leaps in deciding that because this was decided that Leon Vitali, that she had a connection to Leon Vitali, and Leon Vitali played the guy in the red suit. She had a connection to the guy in the red suit, and technically it was Victor Ziegler was the guy in the red suit the whole time, and he was just doing an accent, which doesn't make any sense. But that's how people view Kubrick movies sometimes.
No, absolutely, and I can fall for that a lot. But like in this,
but I
movie,
just thought it was a fun thing.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I wish I had picked up on it.
I paused to read the article.
Yeah, that's.
Well, it's my second time through.
Yeah. Anyway, he thinks it's Featherhead from the orgy, and he goes to the hospital, pretends that he's her doctor to look at her dead body in the morgue, and she's naked on a slab, and it's as sexual as she was alive. Like it's just like this clinical thing. They keep cutting back to the coroner, just kind of tapping his foot, waiting for this guy to be done.
He like refuses to make eye contact with Tom Cruise the whole time.
Yeah.
And then when like there's this moment, and I really love this, where Tom Cruise, like, it looks like he's gonna kiss her, and he like bends down and then doesn't. Again, I thought it was just sort of very fitting for the whole thing, and this weird like a corpse. You should not be making out with a corpse. And when I say kiss, I mean he's gonna kiss. He's gonna kiss her forehead. But even then, this weird, like, he can't bring himself to do it. It's just this awkward little moment. But he gets a phone call then, and it's Victor Ziegler wants to see him,
which leads to the second best scene in the film.
It's so good.
Is him and Victor. So he walks into his office, and it's this gorgeous office, amazing, like 9-foot red velvet pool table,
right?
That costs more than everything I've ever owned put together. It is fucking gorgeous.
Well, that was a part of the theory that he's the guy in the red cloak, is that the guy in the red cloak is the middle of the center square, and then there's I think it's more just like you said, the mirroring, where it's like, yes, this is to identify that this is related to that, not this is that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm fine with the read that Victor was the guy on the balcony that they did the slow turn.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. I don't need it to be that.
Oh yeah,
I don't need that one-to-one.
I'm fine
I just
either
need
way.
that,
Yeah. I think him being the red cloak guy actually kind of detracts from the film. Like, I think that's a little too cute. They just have this tense as fuck conversation. Yeah. And so I do have a couple lines written down where.
Well, I don't know how far into it he is, but like Victor's being all coy.
Yeah.
About like, he's like, no, let's have a drink, and you like the scotch? I'll send you some scotch. Tom Cruise is like, no. It's like, all right, well, we got to talk about something. It's a little awkward, and fesses up that he knows Tom Cruise was there.
Yeah.
At the orgy place.
And he's basically like, you don't know who you're fucking with, kind of thing. And then there's the line that I like. So he goes, suppose I told you what you saw was faked, a charade. And Tom Cruise responds, why would they do that? And he goes, to scare the living shit out of you.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, but also that's not a real answer.
Well,
that's just more subterfuge.
Exactly.
Which I like. Yeah.
So here's the thing. So Tom Cruise, he tells Tom Cruise that, like, I know you were there, whatever. These are high level people you're you're dealing with, which I like. Again, here's Tom Cruise being all transactional. Here's being like showing, here's my doctor badge. I'm a high society guy. The fuck you are. You are a servant still, dude. Like the elite still have power over you. Like the fact that he's whisked away at Ziegler's party the same way that the piano player is. Like, you're still a peon to these people, which I like that element to it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And, but then Tom, he has this back and forth about Tom Cruise is like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I know, come on, hey. So there, and then Tom Cruise shows him the article of the dead beauty queen. It's like they killed her, and he's like, no, she was a dead end herself. She's the same woman that OD'd at my party. You said she was going to end up this way. Obviously, this was the case. And then it's all because Kubrick. I mean, this is so ambiguous. So I think it could be done either way. But he says, like, okay. Basically, he says, suppose I told you that this was all for show. That this was all for your benefit.
Yeah, that was like,
that it's all done on this way that is like, is that actually what happened? Or is he just trying to assuage Tom Cruise? The threats maybe aren't working as much as he would like, but he's also, the threats are still there, but maybe he's trying to say, hey, no, it's all fine. Like, this is unrelated to that. Don't worry about that, but still don't fucking say anything.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of layering going on here because going back to how over dramatic and obviously obviously play acted that the orgy was. Because when you go back, when he says, would you believe me if I told you this was all play acted? And you go back to that scene where the model with the feather head is standing framed in the archway going like, stop, I shall take his place for him. And it's like this kind of over highfalutin accented, like choppy dialogue shit where like, oh, that's it. This was play acting. Now, whether or not she still got murdered afterwards, we're still dealing with creepy fucking orgy Illuminati weirdos.
Right.
But still, there is a level of whether or not she knew or not, she was still playing a role and had scripted lines. And I like that because, like, it's layer upon layer of, like, there actually is no way to unpack what the reality
Right.
is. Yeah.
Because, I mean, this whole thing is very theatrical and ridiculous anyway. So maybe if you wanted to actually get someone out of trouble, you had to read this stupid dialogue. You know what I mean? Like, that was like what you had to do. Those were the litany of lines you had to say in order to take on that role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that as ridiculous as it was, that's actually built into the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like,
no, totally. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, if you ever watch that, you ever see the video of the cremation of care ceremony at the Bohemian Grove?
no. But yes, but I mean, like, this is exactly
That's that
that
same thing. Yeah. No, it's just because it's this grandiose future. Like, and today we burn in effigy all weariest problems of blah 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 highfalutin nonsense. And it's just it's stilted, but it's still the richest people in the world having an orgy and worshiping at an owl. It doesn't matter if it's stilted weird. Like, so there's this kind of layer anyway. So I like how that kind of came back on itself with this talk. That scene should just be a masterclass. And this is the only time in the movie I wish there was a better actor in the Tom Cruise role. Because I think that scene could be better with somebody with a little bit more depth to their acting.
See, but here's the thing. See, I think Tom Cruise did such a phenomenal job. I think Tom Cruise did his best when he plays kind of a jerk. His character is really such like an empty vessel. Like he's a piece of shit. Tom Cruise even said, like, I hated playing this guy. I couldn't. And it wasn't the experience. He's like, I just didn't like playing this guy. I would never have turned this down. This was important for me to do this, but this guy sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, he does. And I think it's him struggling to like have human emotions. Not Tom Cruise, this character.
No, I got it. I think it could have been done better.
Oh, I disagree. I mean,
but
sure.
I love the
maybe,
scene.
but I just think Tom Cruise did a great job.
Yeah, that scene's fantastic. It's far and away the best in the movie.
And it's like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's just one of those things where like it seems like in an alternate universe, people talk about that scene and be like, yeah, it's not a great movie, but those two actors put out a master class. Where it's like, yeah, it was very good, but like it was again what I said about the whole movie, where it's like this, it's half a skip away from being like this was a masterpiece among masterpieces. Yeah.
Tom Cruise kind of acquiesces and he's like, hey, this happens. Like life goes on until it doesn't. But you know that very well. And like kind of gives this sort of like threatening massage to his shoulders.
But also, just stopping here, I know he's not the head of the toppity top, but he's a very successful doctor. He has money.
Yeah.
He's friends with people that are high up.
Yeah.
Why at no point did they just invite him to join?
Oh, because that's a whole different level. Like that's a whole different
No, I
level.
get that it's a whole different level, but it's just, it seems to be the more expedient solution to their problem.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. But like, no, he doesn't have the breeding or the right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But it
yeah,
just
I
seems
mean,
like,
that's all
but,
it is.
I mean, but they're hanging out with them. I mean,
yeah, in this capacity.
Yeah, I guess
but like
you're
for the
right,
real capacity.
no, I guess
it's
you're
the
right,
same way I don't invite you to my orgies because you have too many teeth.
Yes, that's the reason that
Yes.
I don't go to your orgies.
Yes.
That reason that you just preferred is the reason that I do not go to your orgies.
Yep.
So he goes home and I'm going to say drinks a Budweiser in the most masculine way any human being has ever drank one.
Here's the thing. Well, there's two things about that. First of all, that sort of, I think that was an interesting little character thing with him where it sort of shows how not on their level he is. He's drinking beer. You know what I mean? Like that Victor Ziegler offers him like a case of the finest scotch. He's like, no. Not because he doesn't want, he's like, I don't like scotch or anything like that. But just like his drink of choice, beer. He's too lowbrow for these people. But also the way this thing, when he goes home, the first thing you see is his mask on the pillow of his bed.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of readings into this. But before we get to that, I will say I like that you see that before it's him in the home. Because you see it, that's the first thing you see, and then you see him come in and hang out and have a drink and then go into the bedroom. And it adds a level of tension to that scene.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh shit, like what's going to happen? Because there's no indication that Nicole Kidman put it there, that the weird sex cult put it there, or that it's even there at all. That or if it's just a representation of his guilt about his whole experience.
See, I'm such a literal movie watcher in a lot of ways where to me, that's the cults put it there. Like it's reasonably clear. But I mean, I'm so literal because like this movie I decided wasn't a dream. Like there's dreamlike quality to it and it's meant that way. But I think, I don't know, it just seems like too hallucinatory to have that actual,
I agree, but I like that the movie is ambiguous enough that is an option.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
And not a ridiculous option.
I more read it as like the option could be either she put it there, they put it there, or in some, he's more fucked up than we thought, he put it there.
But to me,
I don't like the imaginary hallucinatory aspect.
Agreed. But I mean, it does make sense in a certain reading, but agreed that I don't necessarily like that. But her putting it there to me doesn't make any sense because what about a mask that you find be like, what the fuck is this? This is clearly orgy stuff. You'd be like, what's this? You'd leave it somewhere and be like, oh yeah, what's this mask about? Her leaving it on the pillow seems more accusatory than I think it would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read. My read is just it's meant to be a threat. That's I think literally.
No, I think I'm saying that I think that supports that it's the weird cult has somehow done or whatever. The point is, he sees it there, starts kind of crying, and she wakes up and he's like, "I'll tell you everything," and I love this. And there's many movies that have done this sort of thing, but I always love this in a movie where it's like you don't see that moment.
No,
you
I'm
see
glad
the
we don't.
aftermath of the moment. Immediately, it's this close on Nicole Kidman's face. She's been crying.
Yeah, she's red-eyed as fuck. I think that's a beautiful shot. Yeah, it looks so nice. There's this confusion there, and then they have to go Christmas shopping with their kid, which I just think is a beautiful payoff to this whole movie having Christmas overtones.
Well, there's also no indication of what exactly he told her. He said, "I'll tell you everything," but like you don't know what that means, and I like that. I like that you don't know that ambiguity in terms of he's like, I went to an orgy and they threatened my life, or if it was just like, I tried to make some moves on a prostitute.
Yeah.
Was it just the overall like here's the emotions I had about it that I'm confessing to you, like who was it the evangelist in the 80s, like I have sinned in my heart, crying. If it was that, or if it was like a point by point, and then I saw Nick Nightingale and he gave me fidelity, and then I went and bought a mask.
Yeah, and then there was this one lady, and I think I recognized her from her tits. I'm not sure, because she had a freckle, and the other lady, I'm not sure had a freckle. So, but I mean, her nipples were so similar. No, honey, I'm talking about her nipples. You just sit there for a minute. So they go shopping with their kid.
There's all kinds of symbolism in this, in terms of the items the kid is into. There's there's a baby carriage. Apparently, there's a baby carriage in front of Domino's apartment. And in the
there is, yeah, that's true.
And then like the Barbie doll she picks is all in the like the angel wings that the kid was wearing when they leave with the babysitter. And it can be taken as this idea that they're sort of grooming, unwittingly perhaps, grooming the child to be in the same position Nicole Kidman is in. That women are sort of this trophy sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he seeded that, but I mean, I think that's looking way too hard.
Again, but it's Stanley Kubrick, and that's and I fully, it's the same way that people are be like, oh, David Lynch is just being weird to be weird, and I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think he necessarily goes into something with a plan of like it's going to be this.
Yeah.
But Stanley Kubrick, I think, for as much time as he puts into pre-production, because he's had movies that he's worked really hard on and then shelved. Leon Vitali, I got to see him speak at the Hollywood Theater, and he told the story about the Aryan Papers, which is a movie that Stanley Kubrick really wanted to do and worked really hard on. They did like at least a year of pre-production on it. Then Schindler's List came out, and he was like, "Well, nope, that's done.
Yeah,
we don't need
this." Famously his Napoleon film, which he did for like 10 years. He did research, and then just it never happened.
Yeah, so it's that kind of stuff. So I mean, the guy has intentions, but I also like that he even said, like in an interview about 2001. I don't want to spell out exactly what happened because I don't want to make people feel stupid like they missed something. I want you to figure it out for yourself. You to have the reaction, and that's what I want. And I like that about him.
So this is the other part that I think I objectively don't like about the film, and it ends on way too much of a button. So I wrote down some of the dialogue in the last little thing where he says, well, what do we do now? Blah, 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 maybe. And she goes, well, maybe this is Nicole Kidman as Allison. Maybe I think we should be grateful that we've managed to survive through our adventures, whether they were real or only a dream. And then she says, I don't think the reality of one night or a lifetime can be the whole truth. And then he says, no dream is only a dream. And she responds with, the good thing is we're awake now. Which is like, oh, this is getting really fucking like, it's just so on the nose. But then he goes, well, we're going to be together forever. And she goes, forever. Let's not use that word. It frightens me.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like, oh, this is so. And then there's something we need to do as soon as possible. Fuck. A film by Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
Which I like that last line because that actually fits the like kind of the tone of the movie. But that whole like, do you get the point of this film?
But see, I like it because it mirrors again like the Sandor Savos thing where he's like marriage is this shared delusion, and they're basically agreeing to that. They're like she basically wants him to admit that he's capable of having these thoughts outside of marriage, that these desires. And whatever, but he doesn't want to admit that because it would be the way he posits it to her that it would be like infidelity to even think such a thing because it would hurt her rather than him being a human being and wanting to do that. When he actually acts on it, yeah, she's upset about it, but she's still also like, when he's like, nope, we're together forever. She's like, come on, really? Like, let's be real. We're adults. Let's be realistic about this. And then, yeah, that her solution is like, well, let's just bang. It was all of this, just this weird kinky thing for them. You know what I mean? Like, is that all they're taking from this?
Which I like. That's why I like that last line. But the whole dream stuff is just a little too expository for being the last scene. It's just a little too like, and we're just wrapping this up with a big old bow.
But
that's
it's almost
what this movie means.
I get it, but it's almost like ironic to me, like the way they're talking about it, like that it's that in the face of everything else, they're trying to be like, but we came through it together. Not really. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like the relationship is saved. They're just like, all right, let's use this to have some like sort of makeup sex, but nothing is solved.
No, I'm not saying what she's saying is true about their relationship. I'm just saying like her restating the themes of the film in a small like monologue is a little awkward.
That didn't bother me, I guess.
I think he's a lighter touch than that. Like Stanley Kubrick is a lighter touch than that. It's a little like it's almost like if at the end of Clockwork Orange, where he goes, I was cured, all right. And by cured, I mean I'm actually back to my original violent self because that's my true nature. You see, my true nature, it's like it's a little too like that's why I like there's something we need to do.
But I was ready because I was wearing a full metal jacket.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something we need to do as soon as possible. Fuck, I like that. That's almost like a Clockwork Orange ending, where it's just like, does that mean that they learned something? Does that mean they learned nothing? Does that mean maybe they just gone over their marital, like maybe she's just into fucking again? Like that's cool, but that whole like, but then really, the dream metaphor. And by the way, that movie The Shining? Well, it turns out that's a metaphor.
Right.
It's still a little too,
But I enjoyed it, and
I really like this movie. It's just it's a fucking shade away from a masterpiece, and that's what kills me.
I put this, not having seen his entire catalog, I put this between like 2001 being my absolute favorite, and Full Metal Jacket still liking but being my least favorite. I put this sort of in the middle between those two.
Full Metal Jacket, your least favorite. I'm guessing you're not counting Spartacus or Ben-Hur, whatever the hell one he did.
Barry Lyndon. Well, I have not seen Spartacus or Barry Lyndon.
Okay, Barry. Okay, so of the good ones, because I'm cutting off Spartacus. That was Spartacus he did, right? I get Spartacus and Ben-Hur confused. He even says it's terrible. Like after that, the movies that are the Kubrick movies. Yeah,
like I just watched Paths of Glory for the first time.
So I think I
enjoyed it.
I think objectively the most boring is Barry Lyndon.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Sure.
Like there's nothing fucking happens. I mean, it's a movie of nothing. I think it's better than Paths of Glory. It's better than Lolita. Better than Full Metal Jacket, only because the second half of Full Metal Jacket kind of falls apart.
Yep.
I think I'd kind of leave it about there because I think I like Clockwork better. I definitely like 2001 better.
Sure.
I like I might like this better than The Shining. All right, so John, for next episode, we are going to revisit our friends, the Wachowskis.
Yes.
Of Speed Racer fame, because that's obviously what they're known for best.
They should be.
That was the only Wachowskis we've done so far, right?
We've done, yeah.
Okay, so yes, we are going to revisit Wachowski Land to do Jupiter Ascending.
Yes, from a cinematic masterpiece, Eyes Wide Shut, to another cinematic masterpiece of a different kind.
Yes,
Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, so here, who's the lead of this? Channing Tatum or something like that?
Yeah, C. Tates.
Has rocket-powered inline skates or something.
Sure, why not? Yes. So, I don't know. I know very little about this movie.
That's all I know,
want to know.
And that Mila Kunis is in it.
Sure.
And I think he's part monkey. I think this has got all the ingredients for a good time.
What I'm looking forward to is that between this, Valerian, and Interstellar, I got the angriest at Interstellar. Because I guarantee I will be the most angry at Interstellar.
Yeah, I mean, we can find another movie for you to get angry at. I'm sure
It'll
it's easy
happen.
enough.
Yeah.
So do that. Everybody home, make sure to rate, review, subscribe on wherever the hell you find the podcast.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone who's been reaching out on the Facebook page. That's awesome to hear from you.
Yes.
Whether you're correcting us for being idiots, which you're always welcome to do, or just saying nice things.
Yeah, it's very true. But just try to correct John more often. Just say.
Yeah, or Alex.
No,
the more wrong guy.
Yeah, no, it's John. Correct him more
Yeah.
often because I'm just saying.
I mean, statistically, I've been more right.
I mean, except for your stance on all the movies, yeah. Share the episodes on Facebook and your favorite social media because that's the only way new people will find the show.
Yeah,
'Cause
thanks
I
for
don't know
folks
if
who've been doing that.
I don't know if you noticed, but we're not famous. And
Yeah.
no one's ever going to hear about the show unless you share it with your friends and maybe one of them will like it. And if they don't, you can, it's a good excuse to unfollow them because, it's not like you're really talking to them anyway.
Speaking of excising people and cults, going back to earlier in the episode, Stanley Kubrick's daughter got into Scientology, cut off contact with them. Like, during the making of this
No
movie.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Tidbits.
Yay, tidbits. All right, so we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.